The future of food. How do you see it?
Okay, good. I thought you were taking a photo, so I was trying
No,
to
no.
smile. Is this okay if I am casual?
Yeah,
and
yeah,
get
no
into-
problem.
It's no problem. You can come in.
Yeah, come in.
The future of food. How do I see it? I see that there are two very clear paths that we can take. One path would take us in a direction of increasing industrialization, losing more flavor and identity in food, and making our food system more vulnerable because of this very extreme narrowing of the diversity of foods. When we talk about losing the diversity of foods, we talk about losing every single element that makes food possible. So from the food all the way back to the pollinators, the seeds, the soil, everything is compromised when we only move toward one variety. So now, we see that, 3/4 of our food comes from 12 plant and 5 animal species. So this is the direction that we seem to be moving in, this global trend toward a diet of wheat, rice, corn, soybean, and palm oil. And then we have this alternate path. And that is a path, I think, that returns us to each other. It's a path of savoring. It's a path of appreciating. It's a path of really understanding that food is a passport to the world. It's a connection to each other, and also, most importantly, that it shows our reliance on other people. I think right now we're living in a time when not only the future of food, but the future of us seems very divided, and to realize without Ethiopia, there would be no coffee, without the Fertile Crescent, without the Middle East, there would be no wheat, that the future of these crops lies in the diversity found in these areas. And so for me, that's certainly the path. I think we'll sort of walk both paths, and I understand the role of both paths, but I hope that the path that is perhaps more generous and more focused on biodiversity and focused on the culinary traditions and celebrates the diversity of our food. So the wheat from the United States is not the same as the wheat from Europe, that that there's not just one version, but that we celebrate the many varieties and diversities that exist in food.
The future of food goes all the way with the future of work.
Yeah.
We're going toward a world where work is a finite resource, just like water or salt or anything else. So how can we cope with good food, which is more expensive than industrial food, and lack of work, lack of money for people to buy good food?
So I think it's quite interesting. There's this focus many times on this idea that this cheap food is all we can afford. So we have to create it and we have to embrace it. I don't have the statistics for Europe, unfortunately. What I can tell you is in the United States, people are spending less of a percentage on their income on food than they did during World War II and the Great Depression. So that there's this idea that food should be very cheap, and it's very strange because we put this in our body. I mean, this is what nourishes us, this is what makes us healthy, and now we see cheap food, sicker people, more processed foods, sicker people. We see more allergies. There's also some belief that allergies are linked to now how we're processing food. So I find this like tension a really strange one. And what I like to do is focus on exactly what you're talking about, which is work. The question shouldn't be, why is food so expensive? I feel the question should be, why are people paid so little that this is all they can afford? Why are we treating people in such a poor way that they can't afford good food? And I think this is going to be a real problem moving forward, that we see the priority given to food has diminished for many people in the sense of what they are willing to pay for it. And my hope is that we start to have a different kind of conversation.
Yeah, we should shift the way we look at the situation, the problem,
Absolutely.
and take a completely different look.
Well, because the emphasis becomes, these rich people want this expensive food, where I would argue we should all want food that's where people are paid what they're worth. I mean, if you're paying €1 for something, where is that money going? I mean, we're talking about farmers, for example, with something like chocolate. These farmers are making like 91 US, cents, not even $1 per day for their work. This is what we spend on one chocolate bar. This is nothing. And that's really frustrating to me, because then it shifts the problem onto the people who want to celebrate food and pay its real worth. There are so many costs of food that are hidden. The environmental cost, the social cost to people. So cheap food isn't cheap. It's just the cost has been reallocated.
Yes. In Italy, when you disaggregate the price you pay for anything, for a kilo of bananas, a kilo of peas, or whatever at the stores, and you see that farmers, producers, they get a very small share.
Exactly.
Maybe they get 20% or even less, and they are the ones who do the work.
They're the ones, and they take the risk. You don't know what will happen. Will there be a flood? Will there be a drought? They assume so much risk, and no matter what we pay in the supermarket, or the middle people, the consolidators, the grocery stores, etc., pay, they've already done the work. So they essentially work for free, and then hope, that we will ultimately, they will receive a fair price for their crop, and that they will have an abundant crop. But imagine if every day we went to work and we had no idea what we would be paid. It's extraordinary. We put in all this work, and then we're just like, well, we hope someone will pay us. That doesn't seem like a very like a model that we would support. But this is exactly what agriculture is.